Rise and shine, y'all. Hi, I'm Paula Deen, and today I'm going to show you how to roll your family right out of that bed with my favorite country breakfast. Now, fresh is always best when it comes to the perfect scrambled egg. So let's go straight out there on the farm, and then we're going to be back to the house to roll out the quickest and easiest batch of biscuits you've ever seen. And of course, no Georgia girl worth her salt would dream of a breakfast without a big side of pan-fried country ham and steaming hot buttered grits covered in that red-eye gravy that all of us Southerners do love. So let the dog out and get the coffee brewing. It's breakfast time. I started cooking when I was 18 years old as a new bride. I'm very lucky because I came from a family of wonderful Southern cooks. And at 42 years old, I was faced with having to support myself and my two sons. So I turned to my first love, which is cooking. And so I started cooking for a living. I think food is such a big part of family, and I hope that y'all can watch me and learn to have fun with yours while building wonderful memories around the food that you're preparing. Today I'm going to be fixing y'all a big, hearty country breakfast fit for a country king. But first, I'm going to go out and get me some eggs. You know, the best egg is the freshest, and the freshest is the closest to where you live. So I recommend getting to know folks in your area that you can depend on for great eggs, like Randy of Love Apple Farms always gives me her best.
Okay, Miss Hen, we're going to come and get some eggs from you. Thanks so much. She did a great job today. They all did.
They've been laying, hadn't they?
Yes, they sure have.
Now, what kind of chickens are these, Randy?
These are called Americanas. And they lay these colored eggs, just like Easter eggs.
They're a bluish green. Yeah. They're beautiful.
Sometimes, once in a while, we get one that's almost like a little pale pinkish color, too.
Wow.
That's a real prize. But they have a little pale, see, like this one has a little bit more green to it.
Yeah, that's more green, yeah.
We have some green and we have some blue.
Now, do these taste any different?
Oh, they do. They're my favorites. They're great. They have a really yellow yolk, much more intense than the regular eggs.
How many chickens laid these eggs?
Oh, a lot, because a hen will only lay one egg a day.
Really?
So there's been many in here.
I didn't know that.
They're all taking turns.
What is a free range?
Oh, a free range egg it's a hen that's allowed to just run the range. I mean, she just goes around and she pecks like a hen should peck, and we supplement it with, scraps from the orchard here, all the fruit.
I love Billy, or is this Betty?
Huh? No, that's Billy. That's Billy. There's Betty over there.
The chicken's diet really makes the flavor of the egg then a lot better than one that's
yes, it does. Yes,
more or less
very
processed.
Much so than the feed. Yeah. So we got quite a few eggs here.
Those are wonderful.
See, and if it were Easter, all you'd have to do is hard boil these, and you'd be all set to go.
There you go. How can you tell a fresh egg from a stale one?
Well, one thing is when you crack an egg and you were going to say fry it and put it in a pan, if the yolk stays together, you know it's fresh. If it falls apart, it's an old egg. And then, of course, if you boil water and you put the egg in, if the eggs that are fresh will go to the bottom, and the ones that are not fresh will stay near the top.
Okay, so we need to take those out then.
Yes, exactly. And then, of course, adding a little vinegar to the water, that's very good for it too. And salt also, adding a little salt to it.
Salt will help you peel it easy.
Exactly.
Because fresh boiled eggs are very hard to peel. Oh, Randy, thank you so much.
Oh, you are welcome.
I'm going to make the most wonderful scrambled eggs out of these.
Oh, I bet you will.
And the great treat was bringing farm fresh eggs home to my kitchen the same day they were laid. These are gonna taste wonderful. Well, I finally got all of our ingredients gathered up. Look at these beautiful eggs. But before we get to these, I'm gonna go on and immediately start with our biscuits. And this morning, I'm gonna be preparing y'all wonderful, fluffy cream cheese biscuits. And it's so very simple. All you do is start with a pre-mixed biscuit mix. And we're gonna dump those right in there. And we're going to take some cream cheese. And for this amount, I'm going to use about 3 ounces. I'm just going to put that right in there on top of them. And we're just going to cut that cream cheese into our biscuit mix until it kind of resembles course meal. You know, a lot of people are so leery about making biscuits, but the biscuit mix will really help you along and make it a lot simpler for you. All right, I've got all the cream cheese cut into the biscuit mix, and I think they're just right. So now I'm just going to pour enough milk in them to get them workable for me before I pour them out onto the cutting board to roll. And with a biscuit mix, it's not like using regular flour. I have found over the years that the less you work this, the better off you are. It makes for a lighter, fluffier biscuit. And I think those are just right. Look at this wonderful jar of honey waiting on our biscuits. Now I'm going to just lightly flour my cutting board. And then I'm also going to flour my rolling pin because I don't want the dough sticking to it and causing me any more grief than I have to have. So we're just going to scoop this out onto our cutting board. I'm going to sprinkle just a little bit of flour on it. And then I'm ever so gently going to knead it just a few times. Not much. I think one of the biggest mistakes that people make with biscuits is probably too much handling. You see how very, very little I touched that dough. And we're just going to very gently roll them out. Now, as far as the thickness of your biscuit, a lot of people like a real fat, tall, fluffy biscuit, and some people like a thinner, shorter biscuit. But I'm going to kind of make ours almost in between. You just take your biscuit cutter, run it through your flour so that your biscuit won't stick to it when you lift it. Just push it through and look at that beautiful biscuit. And I'm going to place him onto a greased cookie sheet, and I'm going to put mine on my cookie sheet about 2 inches apart. But the person that would like a soft biscuit would tuck them close together so that the only part that would get brown and crispy would be on the outside and the top. But like I said, this morning I think I want a totally browned biscuit. So I'm going to put mine about 2 inches apart. And when you've used up the bulk of your dough, all you have to do is gather up your biscuits, knead them another time or two to just get them back together, put a little flour on them, hit them again, and that way we're going to get every bite out of our biscuit dough. Our biscuits are on our grease sheet pan and they're ready to go into an oven, and I'm going to put them in at 375. And these are real quick. Keep an eye on them depending on the thickness. They could be ready anywhere between 10 and 15 minutes. Oh, look at them. Just like I like them, nice and brown. How's that for a gorgeous biscuit with hardly any effort? I'm going to steal just one little biscuit before the rest of the gang comes in for breakfast. And I'm going to just get me a bite of butter. And I've just got to taste it with this honey. If that's not the fluffiest, richest biscuit, grits ain't groceries in a poor man's house. And it's not only grits today. When we come back, a fabulous country ham.
I so hope y'all are enjoying the show. And if you do, be sure to click like, subscribe, and the notification bell so you'll never miss a video. And we'll be right back after the break.
We're back and I've got our pot ready for our grits. I've got water in here, but I've also got a secret ingredient that the grits box won't tell you about, and that's milk. And I'm going to add a little salt because every Southerner knows that if you don't salt your grits at the very beginning of cooking, you'll never get them salty. And the next tip I want to share with you on grit cooking is never stop stirring until every one of those grits is wet and thoroughly mixed in. Because if I had just dumped those grits in that pot and turned around to my sink to do something, when I turned back around, I would have big knots of grits. And once your grits knot up, you can't hardly get them out. Now in the South, we never use an instant grit. We use the quick cooking kind that says cooks in 5 minutes. The only trick there is we don't cook them for 5 minutes. We cook them anywhere from 25 to 30 to 45 minutes. Now this is coming back to a boil. I'm going to cut those down to the lowest heat, And I'm not going to get too far from my grit pot. In the meantime, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to start our country ham. Now, I'm working with a whole country ham today, but in the grocery store, you'll find these little babies already sliced very thin and cryovac for you, so you can buy 1 or 2 servings at the time. And I'm going to start by cutting off just a little bit of fat, and I'm going to bring it over to my skillet. And I'm starting with a hot, clean skillet. There's no oil or anything in this. This piece of fat will just grease up our pan nicely so that when our slices are added to it, it won't stick very badly. But you can see my skillet is nice and hot. You can see that fat just smoking in that skillet. Look at that beautiful ham. And we're just going to kind of keep them moving for a minute until they get going. While these are getting nice and hot and beginning to cook, I'm going to move over here to our grit pot and see how they're doing. I'm going to need to add water to these because you can see how thick they've gotten in just a short time. So I'm slowly going to add some more water. You should add hot water to these as you need them. Down south, you know, we argue among ourselves over the proper way to eat grits. You'll have some people that like what they call a fork grit. And what that means is when they put their fork in their grits, they're so thick their fork will stand up. And look at our ham. It's just getting a nice little crispy crust on it. And we're far enough along with our grits now, I'm going to add a little butter to them, and that'll help make them even more creamy when we're ready to serve them. Grits come from ground corn. It looks very, very much like cream of wheat, but it has a totally different flavor. And a lot of people that are not from the South that eat them for the first time tell me that it reminds them of polenta, which polenta is ground corn also. And I'm going to stick our little piece of fat back into our pan along with our ham to just keep it good and greased. And our ham's coming along nicely. As you can see, it's getting little beautiful little brown spots on it. Down south, we wouldn't dream of having country ham in the morning without red-eye gravy. And actually, it's not really a gravy at all. It's coffee mixed with the brown sediments that have come out of the ham while you're cooking. And it's a very thin gravy, and you just pour it over your grits, and it just kind of goes everywhere all over your plate. And those are almost done, so I'm going to stick in another piece. I think I'm going to reach down here and get one of these nice thin slices. I really do like my country ham sliced thin. And when you're cooking with cast iron, you have to really be careful because once these bad boys are hot, they're hot as a firecracker. All right, I'm ready to take our country ham up. And you know, we argue about this down in the South. Some people like their ham kind of soft and tender, and some people like theirs crispy. So if you want it crispy, you would cook it in a skillet that's a little hotter. If you like it soft and more of a light brown color, then you would cook it in a slower skillet. But isn't that beautiful? All right, now our skillet is good and hot, and all I'm going to do at this point is add some good strong coffee to it. Isn't that amazing that something so good can be so simple? All right, I had turned my fire down. Now I'm going to turn it back up, and I'm going to just let that boil away for just a minute or two. Look at that rich brown sauce that's going to go over those hot, buttery, boiling grits. You know, I think this red-eye gravy needs 2 more little things. I think it needs a little pat of butter and a little beef bouillon, and it'll be just perfect. Our grits are just perfect. You know, I was telling you a while ago while I was cooking them how we argue about fork grits, spoon grits. These are almost in the middle. And even though I've added butter to the pot while I was cooking them, I'm still going to put me a little bit more butter to go on top of them along with this red-eye gravy. How good does that look on a cold morning? Oh, it's truly out of this world. Coming up next, perfect scrambled eggs.
I hope y'all are enjoying the show, and I want to hear from you. Tell me what recipes or videos you'd like to see me make by just leaving a short comment below. Now, let's get back to the show, y'all.
I'm going to wrap this breakfast meal up now by scrambling the most wonderful, light, fluffy eggs you've ever eaten. So I've got some wonderful farm fresh eggs. I had a ball going into the chicken coop and getting these. And I'm cooking breakfast this morning for 4 of us, so I think I'm going to scramble 8 eggs. Look how beautiful and golden these yolks are. Look at that deep, rich color. While I'm cracking these eggs, I want to remind y'all, don't ever use an egg that you didn't crack yourself. If you go to the grocery store, I always open my carton and check for any eggs that might be cracked or damaged. And then I swap them out and let the next person get them. All right, we're going to start with a fairly hot skillet. And like a good Southern girl, I'm going to start with a nice fat plop of butter. And we don't want our skillet too hot because we don't want our butter to burn. And while that's melting, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to beat up our eggs. Now you can do this one of 3 ways. You can do it with a fork or a whisk or even an electric mixer. I'm going to add a little salt, a little fresh ground pepper, a little water. I don't like to put milk in my eggs because they have a tendency to make them very tough, and the water keeps them light and fluffy. And for the secret ingredient on this, I'm going to add a nice fat dollop of sour cream. The sour cream will yield you a very fluffy, creamy scrambled egg. All right, it looks like our pan's ready and our eggs are ready. So I'm just going to pour these into that skillet. And I'm going to stir them around a little bit. Do you know, I thought I knew everything about scrambling a good egg until Stacy, my son Jamie's girlfriend, had me over for breakfast one morning and she cooked us eggs. I said, Stacy, these eggs are exceptionally good. What did you do to them? And she said, I put a big old tablespoon of sour cream in them. And I said, well, I don't think I'll ever cook an egg again that doesn't have sour cream. Now I'm going to put that lid on them and let the heat start cooking them on the top. When these are almost ready, I'm going to take the lid off, fluff them, and then I'm going to add a nice bitey cheese to the top of them. All right, I'm going to turn this off now because they're almost ready. And I'm going to let them just continue to cook. And for these eggs this morning, I'm using a nice sharp cheddar cheese. And I'm just going to put those over the eggs. And I'm going to put the lid back on them. I've already cut off the fire, so the cheese will melt strictly from the heat that was left in the pan. And that shouldn't take but a minute. And then we're ready to dish up. Ooh, doggy, those are good. When we come back, a breakfast fit for a country king and some tips on how to not waste a morsel.
I so hope y'all are enjoying the show. And if you do, be sure to click like, subscribe, and the notification bell so you'll never miss a video. And we'll be right back after the break.
Before we eat, I want to share just a couple of things with you. Remember, in scrambled eggs, always use water instead of milk. The water will make them light and fluffy, where milk will make them tough. So always beat them with water, with just a little water. And as usual, it's so hard to cook just a small amount of grits. I have overcooked my grits. I have too many, but that's all right because they'll be good tomorrow morning. I'm going to take a glass that I have sprayed with a non-stick spray, and I'm just going to put my grits over in there. I'm just going to pack them down in there. I'm going to take my grits while they're still warm and soft and put them in a well-greased glass, and I'm going to stick these in the fridge. And tomorrow morning for breakfast, I'm going to take them out and I'm going to run a knife around the edge of this glass, and my grits will just slide out onto a plate, and I'm going to slice them about 1/2 inch thick, and I'm going to beat up an egg with a little milk and salt and pepper and lightly run them through a coating of that. And then I'm going to fry them up in that black skillet, and they'll be so good tomorrow with a whole new twist. Well, I've worked up a tremendous appetite and I'm hungry as a bear. I can't wait to dive into these hot biscuits and these buttered grits and the country ham and these perfect scrambled eggs just covered in a zesty cheese. You know, there's nothing any better than coming home from work on a cold winter night and coming in and slipping into your favorite robe and those nice, soft, fluffy slippers and going into the kitchen and cooking up a hearty breakfast and having it for dinner. So until next time, America, best dishes from my country kitchen to yours.
Hey y'all, it's Paula Deen. Now, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like it and click the subscribe button as well as the notification bell to be alerted when I post a video. Love and best dishes, y'all.